Sometimes the person who saves you isn't the one you rescue from the rain. It's the one brave enough to show you that love doesn't have to hurt. The rain was coming down hard that Tuesday night. Alex sat at his small kitchen table, laptop open, working on another logo design for a client he'd never meet. The apartment was quiet except for the sound of raindrops hitting his window. This was his life now. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. No complications, no surprises, no people getting too close. He liked it this way. At least that's what he told himself every morning when he woke up alone. The knock on his door came just after 10 o'clock. Soft, hesitant, like whoever was outside wasn't sure they should be there. Alex looked up from his computer screen, frowning. Nobody visited him. His neighbors barely knew his name, and he preferred it that way. He walked to the door and looked through the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway, soaked from head to toe. Her dark hair stuck to her face, and she was shivering. She held what looked like the broken remains of an umbrella in one hand and kept checking her phone with the other. Alex hesitated. 2 years ago, he would have opened the door without thinking, but that was before everything fell apart, before he learned that trusting people was a mistake that could cost you everything. The woman knocked again, this time a little louder. When Alex looked through the peephole again, she was looking right at the door as if she knew he was watching. There was something in her expression that made him pause. She didn't look dangerous or demanding. She looked lost. Against his better judgment, Alex unlocked the door and opened it just enough to see her face clearly. "I'm sorry to bother you so late," she said, her voice shaking from the cold. "My car broke down about 3 blocks from here and my phone just died. I saw your light was on and thought maybe—" She trailed off, looking embarrassed. "I just need to call someone for help." Alex studied her face. She was probably in her early 30s with kind eyes that seemed genuine. Her clothes suggested she was coming home from work somewhere professional, maybe a hospital or office. Everything about her seemed normal, real, not like someone who would cause trouble. "Please," she added quietly. "I know this is weird, but I don't know what else to do." Something about the way she said it got to him. Maybe it was the fact that she didn't demand anything or act like he owed her help. She was just asking, person to person, in a moment when she really needed it. Alex opened the door wider. "Come in, you're getting soaked out there." Relief washed over her face. "Thank you so much. I promise I'll be quick." She stepped inside, dripping water on his small entrance mat. Alex closed the door and realized he wasn't sure what to do next. It had been so long since he'd had anyone in his apartment that he'd forgotten the basic rules of being helpful. "Let me get you a towel," he said, disappearing into his bathroom. When he returned, she was still standing exactly where he'd left her, not wanting to drip water anywhere else. "Here." He handed her the towel. "And you can use my phone. It's right there on the counter." "Thank you." She dried her face and hair, looking around his small but tidy apartment. "I'm Luna, by the way, and I'm really grateful. I was starting to think I'd have to walk home in this storm." "Alex," he replied, "and don't worry about it. Everyone needs help sometimes." As soon as he said it, Alex realized how long it had been since he'd actually believed those words. When was the last time he'd asked anyone for help? When was the last time he'd offered it? Luna walked to his phone and dialed a number, then waited. After a moment, she hung up. Straight to voicemail. "Can I try one more number?" Alex nodded, watching as she tried again. This time, someone answered, but from Luna's side of the conversation. It was clear they couldn't help her tonight. "Okay. Thank you anyway," she said, hanging up. She turned to Alex with a frustrated smile. "Well, that was my roommate and my brother. Neither one can come get me right now. What about a taxi or rideshare?" Alex suggested. Luna checked her phone. "My phone's completely dead and I don't think I have enough cash for a taxi all the way across town." They stood there for a moment, both unsure what to do next. Alex found himself looking at this stranger in his apartment and feeling something he hadn't experienced in years. He wanted to help her, really help her, not just because it was the right thing to do, but because something about her made him care. "Look," he heard himself saying, "I could drive you home, if you want." Luna's eyes widened. "Oh no, I couldn't ask you to do that." "You've already done enough and it's really late. You're not asking. I'm offering." Alex surprised himself with how much he meant it. It's not that far, right? And this storm doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. Luna studied his face, probably trying to figure out if this was safe, if he was someone she could trust. Alex realized he was doing the same thing, trying to understand why he cared so much about helping someone he'd just met. Are you sure? She asked finally. Yeah, I'm sure. Something shifted in the room then, some small moment of connection between two people who had both learned to be careful with others. Luna smiled, and it was the first completely genuine smile Alex had seen in longer than he could remember. Then yes, I'd really appreciate the ride home. As Alex grabbed his keys and jacket, he wondered what he was doing. For 2 years, he'd avoided exactly this kind of situation. No getting involved in other people's problems, no opening doors to complications. But looking at Luna, seeing her relief and gratitude, he realized he'd missed this. He'd missed being someone who helped, someone who cared enough to step outside his own small world. Maybe, just maybe, some risks were worth taking. 3 weeks had passed since that rainy night, but Alex still found himself thinking about Luna. He'd driven her home that evening, and they'd talked the entire way. Nothing deep or personal, just easy conversation about the storm, the city, little things that somehow felt important. When he dropped her off at her apartment building, she'd thanked him again and disappeared into the lobby. He thought that would be the end of it. But then, the following Saturday morning, there was another knock on his door. Alex opened it to find Luna standing there with a small bag in her hands. She looked different in daylight, more relaxed, wearing jeans and a simple sweater instead of her work clothes. Hi, she said with that same genuine smile he remembered. I brought back your towel, and I got you something as a thank you. She handed him the bag, and Alex looked inside to find fresh coffee beans from a local roastery and a handwritten note that simply said, "Thank you for reminding me that good people still exist." You didn't have to do this, Alex said, though he was touched by the gesture. I wanted to, Luna replied. That night meant more to me than you probably realize. They stood there for a moment, and Alex found himself wanting to invite her in for coffee. The thought surprised him. For 2 years, his apartment had been his safe space, the place where he didn't have to deal with other people or their expectations. Would you like to come in? He heard himself asking. I could make us some coffee with these beans. Luna's face lit up. I'd love that. As Alex made coffee, Luna looked around his apartment with genuine interest. She didn't ask nosy questions or comment on how neat everything was. She just observed quietly, the way someone does when they're trying to understand a person through their space. You're an artist, she said, noticing the design work on his computer screen. Graphic designer, Alex corrected. Mostly logos and websites for small businesses. That's still art, Luna said. Creating something from nothing, making it look exactly right. That takes talent. Alex felt a warmth in his chest that he'd almost forgotten. When was the last time someone had said something encouraging about his work? When was the last time anyone had really looked at what he did and seen value in it? They sat at his small kitchen table with their coffee, and Luna told him about her job as a nurse at the children's hospital downtown. She talked about the kids she worked with, how they taught her something new every day about being brave and finding joy in small moments. It's hard sometimes, she admitted, seeing families go through difficult times, but it's also beautiful. You get to be part of people's lives during the moments that matter most. Alex found himself really listening, not just waiting for his turn to talk. Luna had a way of speaking that made everything sound important, like she really thought about her words before saying them. What about you? She asked. Do you like working from home? Alex considered the question. It's quiet, he said finally. Peaceful. Luna nodded, but he could see in her eyes that she understood what he wasn't saying. Quiet and peaceful could also mean lonely and isolated. They met for coffee the following week at a small cafe near the hospital. Luna had just finished a long shift, and Alex could see the tiredness in her eyes, but also something else. She looked content, like someone who knew exactly where she belonged in the world. Tell me something about yourself that I wouldn't guess, Luna said over her latte. Alex thought about it. I used to paint, he said. Real painting, not just computer graphics. I haven't touched a brush in years. Why did you stop? The question hit closer to home than Alex expected. I guess I stopped believing I had anything worth saying. Luna was quiet for a moment. Maybe you just haven't found the right thing to say yet. Something about the way she said it made Alex look at her differently, not just as someone he'd helped on a rainy night, but as someone who might understand the parts of himself he'd been hiding from. Over the next few weeks, they fell into an easy routine. Coffee dates, walks through the park, quiet conversations that somehow never felt forced or awkward. Alex began to look forward to Luna's texts. to the sound of her laugh, to the way she listened like every word mattered. One evening, Luna called him sounding upset. She'd had a particularly difficult day at work, losing a young patient she'd been caring for. Alex didn't hesitate. "Come over," he said. "You don't need to be alone right now." When Luna arrived at his apartment, her eyes were red from crying. She didn't say much, just looked at Alex with such raw need for comfort that something shifted between them. Without thinking, Alex pulled her into a hug. They stood there in his doorway, holding each other, and Alex realized this was the first time in 2 years that he'd felt truly needed by another person. Not used, not taken advantage of, but genuinely needed in a way that felt good and right. When Luna finally pulled back, she looked up at him with those honest eyes, and Alex knew something had changed. This wasn't just friendship anymore. This was something deeper, something that scared him and excited him at the same time. "Thank you," Luna whispered, "for being here, for caring." Alex touched her face gently. "Of course I care." And in that moment, when Luna smiled through her tears, Alex felt the first crack in the wall he'd built around his heart. Maybe caring about someone didn't have to mean getting hurt. Maybe it could mean something beautiful instead. 2 months had passed since that difficult evening when Luna had needed Alex's comfort. Something beautiful had grown between them, something neither of them had expected but both had quietly hoped for. They'd shared their first kiss that night, gentle and careful, like two people who'd both been hurt before but were willing to try again. Now they spent most evenings together, either at Alex's apartment or Luna's. They cooked dinner, watched movies, talked about their days. Alex had given Luna a key to his place, something that would have terrified him a year ago but now felt natural and right. It was a quiet Sunday morning when everything changed. Alex was still in bed enjoying the rare luxury of sleeping in when he heard his front door open. Luna's shift at the hospital had ended at dawn, and she often came straight to his place afterward, too tired to go home to her own apartment first. Alex smiled, listening to the soft sounds of Luna moving around his kitchen. She was probably making coffee, maybe toast. These morning routines had become precious to him. The simple comfort of knowing someone cared enough to share the quiet moments of life with him. He heard her footsteps approaching his bedroom door, which was slightly open. Luna appeared in the doorway, still in her scrubs, looking tired but peaceful. She looked at him with those warm eyes that had become so familiar, so important to his daily happiness. "Good morning," she said softly, not wanting to wake him if he was still sleeping. "Good morning," Alex replied, sitting up. "Rough night?" Luna nodded, then began to untie her work shoes. "Long night, but it's over now." Alex watched as she moved around his bedroom with the easy familiarity of someone who belonged there. She hung her stethoscope on his dresser, placed her hospital ID badge next to it. These small actions, repeated countless times over the past weeks, had transformed his space from a place of solitude into a home shared with someone he loved. Without saying anything else, Luna began to change out of her work clothes. There was nothing hurried or dramatic about it. She simply needed to get comfortable, to shed the stress of her 12-hour shift and transition into the peaceful morning they could share together. Alex had seen Luna change clothes before, but something about this moment felt different. Maybe it was the way the morning light came through his bedroom window, soft and golden. Maybe it was the quiet contentment on her face, the way she moved without any self-consciousness or hesitation. When Luna was finished changing into the comfortable clothes she kept at his apartment, she looked at Alex and smiled. It wasn't a seductive smile or a playful one. It was something much more powerful than that. It was the smile of someone who felt completely safe, completely accepted, completely loved. In that smile, Alex saw everything Luna was offering him. Not just her body, not just her time, but her complete trust. Her willingness to be vulnerable with him in every way that mattered. Her faith that he would protect her heart the way she was trusting him with it. The weight of that trust hit Alex like a wave. This woman, who could have chosen anyone, who was kind and beautiful and had so much to offer the world, had chosen him. She'd looked past his walls, his fears, his determination to stay isolated, and had decided he was worth loving. Alex felt something break open inside his chest, not break as in shatter, but break as in bloom, like a flower that had been closed tight for too long finally opening to let in the light. "Luna," he said quietly. She turned to face him fully, and Alex saw in her expression that she understood what was happening to him. She could see the walls coming down, the fear giving way to something much stronger and more beautiful. "I know," she whispered. "I see you." Those 3 words undid him completely. Alex had spent 2 years making sure nobody could really see him, hiding behind his work, his routines, his carefully maintained distance from everyone. But Luna saw him anyway. She saw his kindness, his talent, his capacity for love that he'd tried so hard to bury. Alex got out of bed and crossed the room to where Luna stood. When he reached her, he took her face in his hands and looked into her eyes. "I love you," he said. It was the first time either of them had said those words, but they felt as natural as breathing. Luna's smile grew even brighter. "I love you too." They held each other then, and Alex marveled at how right it felt. For so long, he'd believed that opening his heart would only lead to pain. But this felt like the opposite of pain. This felt like coming alive. "I was so scared," Alex admitted against Luna's hair. "Scared of feeling this much, scared of needing someone." "I know," Luna said softly. "I was scared too. But look what we almost missed." Alex pulled back to look at her again. "How did you know?" "How did you know I was worth waiting for?" Luna touched his cheek gently. "Because I could see who you really were, even when you were trying to hide it. The man who opens his door to strangers in the rain, who drives across town to help someone he barely knows, who makes coffee with such care because he wants it to be perfect. The man was always worth loving." As they stood together in the morning light, Alex realized that Luna's trust hadn't broken him at all. It had rebuilt him. Her willingness to be completely open with him had given him permission to be completely open too. For the first time in years, Alex felt whole. Alex woke up to the sound of his phone buzzing on the nightstand. Luna was still sleeping beside him, her face peaceful in the early morning light. They'd been living together for 3 months now, and Alex had never been happier. Every morning felt like a gift, every evening like coming home to exactly where he belonged. He reached for his phone, expecting to see a text from a client, or maybe a reminder about an appointment. Instead, he saw a name that made his stomach drop. Jennifer, his ex-wife. The message was simple but loaded with meaning. "Can we talk? I've been thinking about us lately. I miss what we had." Alex stared at the screen, feeling like the floor had disappeared beneath him. Jennifer, the woman who had destroyed his ability to trust, who had made him believe that love was just another word for betrayal, the reason he'd spent 2 years building walls around his heart. He quietly got out of bed, not wanting to wake Luna, and went to the kitchen. The coffee maker started its familiar routine, but Alex barely noticed. His mind was spinning back to memories he'd worked so hard to forget. Jennifer had been his college sweetheart, the person he'd thought he would spend his life with. They'd gotten married young, full of dreams and plans. For 5 years, Alex had believed they were building something beautiful together. He'd worked extra hours to save for the house she wanted, had put his art dreams on hold to focus on stable income, had shaped his entire life around their shared future. Then he'd found out about David, Jennifer's co-worker, the man she'd been seeing for 8 months behind Alex's back. When Alex had confronted her, she hadn't even seemed sorry. She'd blamed him for working too much, for not being exciting enough, for becoming predictable. She'd made their divorce feel like his punishment for not being good enough. "Alex?" Luna's sleepy voice came from the bedroom doorway. "Is everything okay?" Alex looked up to see Luna in one of his t-shirts, her hair messy from sleep, concern written across her face. Even half awake, she could sense when something was wrong. That's who Luna was, someone who noticed, someone who cared. "Just couldn't sleep," Alex lied, sliding his phone into his pocket. "Go back to bed. You don't have to work until tonight." But Luna came into the kitchen anyway, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "You're tense," she said softly. "What's bothering you?" Alex leaned back against her, feeling torn between the comfort of her presence and the chaos in his head. Should he tell her about Jennifer's message? Would Luna understand, or would she think he was still hung up on his ex-wife? "Sometimes the past just catches up with you," Alex said carefully. Luna moved to face him, searching his eyes. "Want to talk about it?" Alex wanted to say yes, wanted to share everything with Luna the way they'd learned to share everything else. But Jennifer's message had awakened old fears, old doubts about his own worth and his ability to keep someone happy. "It's nothing I can't handle," Alex said instead. Luna studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, but you know I'm here if you need me, right?" "I know," Alex said, kissing her forehead. "Thank you." But as the days passed, Alex found himself pulling away. Not dramatically, not in ways Luna could easily call out, but in small, subtle ways that felt safer. He worked later into the evenings. He was quieter during dinner conversations. He stopped initiating the easy physical affection that had become natural between them. Jennifer texted again and again. She wanted to meet for coffee just to talk. She said she'd been in therapy, that she understood now how badly she'd hurt him. She claimed she'd realized what she'd lost when she lost him. Alex didn't respond to her messages, but he didn't delete them either. Some part of him, the part that Jennifer had damaged, wondered if maybe she was right. Maybe he had been too boring, too predictable. Maybe Luna would eventually see what Jennifer had seen and decide she wanted something more exciting too. Luna noticed the change, of course she did. She tried gentle questions, patient understanding, little gestures to show she cared. But Alex found himself interpreting her kindness as pity. When she suggested they cook dinner together, he wondered if she was bored with their routine. When she curled up next to him on the couch, he worried she was forcing herself to be affectionate. The worst part was that Alex knew what he was doing. He could see himself sabotaging the best thing that had ever happened to him, could watch himself repeating the patterns that had kept him alone for 2 years. But Jennifer's return had awakened every insecurity, every fear that he wasn't enough for someone as wonderful as Luna. One evening, Luna came home from work to find Alex staring at his laptop, not really working but not doing anything else either. "Alex," she said, sitting beside him on the couch. "We need to talk." Alex's heart sank. Here it was, the conversation where Luna would tell him this wasn't working anymore, that she needed space, that she'd found someone better. "I can feel you pulling away from me," Luna continued, "and I don't understand why. Did I do something wrong?" The question hit Alex like a punch to the chest. Luna thought she was the problem. This amazing, caring woman who had brought light back into his life thought she was the reason for his distance. "No," Alex said quickly. "Luna, no. You haven't done anything wrong." "Then what is it?" Luna asked. "Because 3 weeks ago we were happy. We were planning that weekend trip to the mountains. We were talking about getting a dog. And now you barely look at me." Alex saw the hurt in her eyes and felt something crack inside him. Not the good kind of breaking that had happened months ago, but the kind that meant something precious was about to shatter. "My ex-wife has been texting me," Alex admitted. "She wants to get back together." Luna went very still. "And what do you want?" It was such a simple question, but it contained everything. What did Alex want? Did he want to go back to the woman who had broken his trust? Or did he want to fight for the woman who had spent months rebuilding it? Looking at Luna's face, seeing the love and fear and hope all mixed together in her expression, Alex finally understood what he'd been doing to himself. And to her. He'd been so afraid of being hurt again that he'd started hurting the person who had never given him a single reason not to trust her. "I want you," Alex said, the words coming out with a certainty that surprised him. "Luna, I want you. I want this. I want us." Relief flooded Luna's face, but she didn't move closer yet. "Then why have you been acting like you want to run away?" Alex ran his hands through his hair, trying to find the right words. "Because I'm scared. Because Jennifer made me believe I wasn't enough. And when she contacted me, all those old fears came back. I started wondering when you'd realize you could do better." Luna was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. "Alex, look at me." He met her eyes, seeing the woman who had patiently helped him rebuild his ability to trust, who had never asked for more than he could give, who had shown him what real love actually looked like. "Do you trust me?" Luna asked. "Yes," Alex answered without hesitation. "Then trust me when I tell you that I'm not going anywhere. Trust me when I say that what we have is real, and it's worth fighting for. But Alex, you have to fight for it too. You can't keep running away every time something scares you." Alex felt the truth of her words settle into his chest. Luna was right. She'd been patient with his fears, gentle with his healing, but she deserved better than someone who would abandon her every time the past knocked on the door. "I need to talk to Jennifer," Alex said. "I need to end this properly," Luna nodded. "Do you want me to come with you?" The offer touched Alex deeply. Luna was willing to face the woman who had hurt him, to support him even though this situation must have been painful for her too. "No," Alex said. "This is something I need to do myself. But thank you for offering." 2 days later, Alex met Jennifer at a coffee shop downtown. She looked exactly the same, polished and confident, wearing the kind of expensive clothes that had always made Alex feel like he wasn't successful enough. "You look good," Jennifer said when he sat down across from her. "Different. More confident." "I am different," Alex replied. "The question is, are you?" Jennifer launched into her prepared speech about therapy and growth, and realizing her mistakes. She talked about how she'd dated other people but never found what she'd had with Alex. She said she understood now that she'd been afraid of commitment, afraid of being vulnerable. Alex listened but found himself thinking about Luna, about the way Luna had trusted him completely from the beginning, how she'd never played games or made him guess where he stood with her. Luna's love was steady and real, not dramatic or complicated. It was the kind of love that made life better, not harder. "Jennifer," Alex said, interrupting her mid-sentence, "I forgive you." She stopped talking, surprise flickering across her face. "I forgive you for cheating," Alex continued. "I forgive you for making me feel like I wasn't enough. I forgive you for the way you ended our marriage. But that doesn't mean I want you back." "Alex, please just think about it," Jennifer said. "We were good together for 5 years. We could be good again." "We were good until we weren't," Alex replied. "And more importantly, I'm happy now. Really happy. I'm with someone who sees the best in me, someone who doesn't need me to be different than I am." Jennifer's face hardened. "Is this about that nurse?" "Alex, be realistic. What can she give you that I can't?" The question made Alex smile. "Peace," he said simply. "She gives me peace." Alex left the coffee shop feeling lighter than he had in weeks. He'd faced his past and chosen his future. Now he just had to hope Luna would still want to be part of that future. When he got home, Luna was in the kitchen making dinner. She looked up when he walked in, her expression carefully neutral. "How did it go?" she asked. "It's over," Alex said. "Really over this time." Luna's shoulders relaxed slightly, but she still looked cautious. "And how do you feel about that?" Alex crossed the room and took Luna's hands in his. "I feel like I almost made the biggest mistake of my life. I feel like I'm an idiot for letting my past make me doubt what we have. And I feel like I need to spend the rest of my life making sure you know how much you mean to me." Luna's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. "Alex, and I love you," Alex said. "Not because you're convenient or safe or easy. I love you because you're extraordinary. Because you saw something worth loving in me when I couldn't see it myself. Because you're brave enough to love someone who was broken and patient enough to help them heal." Luna threw her arms around him then, and Alex held her tight, marveling at how right this felt. How could he have ever thought about giving this up? "I love you too," Luna whispered against his neck. "And Alex, you were never broken. You were just hurt. There's a difference." 6 months later, Alex and Luna were unpacking boxes in their new apartment. It was bigger than either of their old places, with a spare room that Alex had already set up as an art studio. He'd started painting again, inspired by the colors Luna had brought back into his world. As they worked, Alex found himself thinking about that rainy night when Luna had knocked on his door. If he'd chosen differently, if he'd been too afraid to help a stranger, none of this would have happened. He would still be alone, still hiding from the possibility of love. "What are you thinking about?" Luna asked, noticing his distant expression. "Just how lucky I am," Alex said, pulling her close. "How lucky we are." Luna smiled and kissed him, and Alex thought about how love wasn't just about the big dramatic moments. It was about choosing each other every day, about building something beautiful and strong together, about having the courage to trust and be trusted. Outside their window, it started to rain. But this time, Alex wasn't hiding from the storm. He was safe inside with the woman he loved, building a life that was better than anything he'd ever imagined possible. Sometimes the best things in life really did begin with opening your door to someone who needed help. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, that someone would turn out to be exactly what you needed too.